Welcome back to the Nola Experience podcast. I am your host, Nola, and I'm here with Mr. Melee.
Wish giddy. What's happening?
Everything is good.
Everything's good?
Everything is always good.
That's good. That's good.
Sometimes we're a little bit challenged and it feels uncomfortable, but those
Yeah.
things are also there for your benefit somehow. So everything is
hmm
always good.
Do you notice something different about me?
Did you lose weight?
No. I might have gained a little something.
The shirt! I'm so loud. Wow.
Shout out to Front Road Apparel, baby.
So, for the people who are not able to see, Mr. Melee is wearing a super cute t-shirt, dope black
It is
dad.
super cute.
Yeah, I
I
love
love
it.
the design. The
Dope
design is
black
awesome.
dad.
The colors are great.
Yeah. Well, I designed the shirt, but of course it wasn't an original design. Ivory said, "Hey, I would like here's some inspiration. Can you recreate something that looks like this?" And I'm like, it's not going to be identical because I don't know if I'm going to be able to find the exact fonts and the color match and all that stuff, but I will do my best and it looks pretty darn
But
good.
you recreated this.
Yes, I did from scratch.
That's well, it's not, and this is your design. You might have maybe taken a few things from the other one, but if you did this all and typed
Yeah,
all the letters
I
and put
did.
all the shapes in the spots that
Yeah.
they need to be,
Yeah,
nah,
from
this is your
scratch.
design. This is
I had to
fire.
figure out how to get the color behind the P and the B and the A. That was like, I was like, how
Really?
am I gonna do that? And then I did it, and I was like, oh, okay.
Photoshop?
Canva.
Oh, Canva. Okay, okay. Nah, this is dope. This is very dope. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate
Yeah,
your hard work and effort because it's cool and it's a nice right size that I
yeah,
like.
it looks good on you. I love it.
Eh,
Nice.
eh.
Have you been working out through this whole thing? Because there's some people who have been gaining weight like me, and then there's some people who like they've turned into workout monsters.
I have not. I did start with it because when this whole thing started, everybody was like, "Push up challenge, yeah, let's do stuff while we home, push up." So I was a part of that wave, and that
I
wave
think the
passed.
first I think the first wave of COVID, um, it gave some of us this boost because now we're home a lot. We're hanging out with people that we missed and all that stuff. And then after a while, I was like, okay, guys, all right.
Yeah, now they're like, open up their gyms. What happened to that energy? Why keep that same energy that y'all was
Yo,
talking about? Do these push-up challenges. Keep that same energy. Now they like open up the goddamn gym.
wow, it's been crazy. A lot of people are home with. I remember listening to a press conference with Governor. Should I say his name of New York, Cuomo?
The governor
um,
of New York.
the governor of New York. Um,
Look it up.
so his first name starts with an A. But anyway, so he said something and like I couldn't hear anything else after that. He said, "I know a lot of you are not used to being with your kids."
Oh, I did hear him say that. He be heating.
And I was like,
But that's true.
"It's true. That's the
That's
point.
true.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. Like from the time your kid, well, for some babies start daycare as infants.
Uh-huh.
For
Yeah,
some people,
daycare, pre-K, kindergarten, first grade. It's like your whole life you're being babysat by other people.
wow. And it's like maybe 12 hours of the day you're not with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they come home at whatever time, sometimes the parents come home after.
Most likely.
And then let's say you come home around 7 or 6 and your kids go to bed at 9. During
Wow.
those 2 or 3 hours, you're basically getting them ready for bed, feeding them, doing homework. And although that's some form of interaction, to me, it's not as in depth and intimate enough because you're still
Uh-huh.
hustling and bustling, preparing for the next day. And
Yeah.
then the next morning, maybe you have breakfast. Some people don't
Yeah.
even have that where,
Nah.
you know, we have breakfast together and then the kids go off to school. Some people leave home before the kids wake up.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come home and do that all over again, except for the weekends. And then you have some people who work 6 days, 7 days, and they don't see their kids for
Yeah.
more than 2 or 3 hours a day.
Facts.
I knew before I got pregnant that I didn't want that.
Uh,
I knew, and I never had it. My son has never been to daycare,
wow.
ever. And I fought against it. There were times when we looked like his dad and I, we visited daycares, we did all these different things, trying to figure out, okay, so maybe I'm going to go to work or whatever. But for the first 2 years of his life, I
Mm-hmm.
was home. I pretty much started a business when I was pregnant,
Mm.
and that carried me through. And then when he was 2 years old, that's when I started really getting back out into the world and doing like hardcore work. And even during those times, being a homeschool mom, he was always with me for the most part.
Yeah.
So there was never really a significant amount of time when my son and I were not together.
Mm.
And that shit requires hella patience.
Oh, I can only imagine.
It's a lot of patience, man. I
That's
think,
really dope.
yeah, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't. It breaks my heart. I think it would make me sick. I think I would probably go into a depression if I
Mm.
had to be away from my child 12 hours out of the day and only see them for 2 or 3 hours. And then have that go on for pretty much most of their life,
Yeah.
you know,
Your most
their
of your
young
life.
life. That crucial time in a child's life from, you know, birth to age 7, when they're really being formed. Like
Mm.
that time span is really the time that will dictate what happens for the rest of your life.
Mm.
And it just broke my heart, the thought of even having to not be with him. But I also feel like that heartbreak and that determination to make sure that I was with him a lot is because of my upbringing, where
I was gonna ask you that. Mm-hmm.
I didn't spend a lot of time with my parents.
Uh-huh.
I didn't. For one, I met my father when I was 19.
Whoa.
I met my dad at age 19, and then I also didn't spend a lot of time with my mom as a little girl. And
Because she's working.
hmm yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and she's working, and you know, and then there was a chunk of time when my mom left me in Guyana, which is such a typical or a common thing that people from other countries do, where they
Mm-hmm.
leave their kids back home, come to the United States to create a better life, and then
Mm-hmm.
bring them after.
And then bring them, yeah.
And for the most part, that doesn't work. For the most part, it does not work in terms of the relationship and the bond and
Oh,
stuff like that. Mm-mm.
yeah.
It kind of backfires because it's kind of like, yeah, you have these things, you have these luxuries and the material stuff and great circumstances and maybe nice schools and stuff you're able to afford,
Mm-hmm.
but the love is wavering, you know, the bond is wavering and the connection is probably non-existent, so then
Yeah.
those material things end up not meaning
Meaning,
much.
yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure to them, I mean, not to say it's not about love, but to them, I feel like that almost is love. Them
It
saying
is.
like, I'm gonna I'm gonna prepare this house for you. I'm gonna
It
get
is.
you all these things. To them, that is love.
It's another
But
level of sacrifice because love is,
yes,
a part of loving is a
sacrifice.
sacrificial, right?
Hmm.
And I know that was my mother's way of
Way, yep,
showing her love on a different level, where I am willing to do this thing to make sure that my family is good. But it doesn't resonate that way with a child.
sure.
The child doesn't process it that way. The kid is
Hmm.
just like, I want my mom and I want my
Yep.
dad. So for me, um, growing up without my parents during those very, very important years,
Yeah.
it definitely molded me a certain way, man. And shout out to my dad, who, he's in my life now and we're cool. But there's still that disconnect, you know, like no matter what we do and no matter how we try, there's still that disconnect because um I think the part where that was supposed to be injected didn't happen. So then it's just missing. Like there's just a
Mm,
thing that's just missing. But then with my mom, and I always feel like people have different relationships with mothers, period.
mm,
You have that innate bond with your mother because she was the portal that brought you into this realm.
mm-hmm.
This was your passageway, this,
Sure.
and you lived inside of her for a very long time. So
Sure.
we have that natural bond with our mothers, period. Like no matter what your mom does, that's still your mom.
Mm-hmm.
um but yeah, growing up with a single mother who had to work crazy jobs, there were times when I pretty much lived on my own as a kid.
Mm,
As a teenager, I absolutely spent a couple of years, I think in high school for sure, living on my own.
sheesh.
Yeah, I was living on my own. I was in our apartment. My mom had to work a job where she lived at her patient's home. That's the only
Ah,
way she could make enough money to afford a
apartment
regular
that she don't
life
even stay in.
that she don't live in. She don't even know what that apartment looked like.
That's crazy.
And to have food, and this is not even a big luxurious life, it's a basic life
Yeah.
in terms of luxuries, right?
Yeah.
And that's a structure that a lot of families live through. you
Yeah.
know it I didn't know this, but majority of kids, according to um the Institute of Family Studies.
Mm-hmm.
When I read this, I was kind of like, are they sure? Because that's not how I see the world.
Mm,
But then I had to really think of it and realize that I'm assessing the world from that area of life where I am coming from, a single mother who had to work excessively just to meet the basic necessities for us to survive. But the data says that most kids live with both biological parents.
really? More live with both parents
Mhm.
than not?
Yeah.
I feel like that's accurate. You're
Right.
saying out of everyone in America, most families in America.
Right.
Okay.
Right. But it did not feel true to me because I'm coming from a different world
Yeah.
where I saw a lot of single parent homes.
Mm. Uh,
That was my environment, and it's so incredible how growing up in that space molds your mind, and literally for your whole life will dictate how you interact in romantic relationships,
mm,
how you interact with your kids,
mm-hmm,
how you go to school,
mm-hmm.
if you go to school, if you get good grades,
Wow.
if you go to college, if you get married,
Sheesh.
If you end up as a single parent, if you end up in poverty, if you're able to become wealthy,
Really?
your health, and how soon you die.
Whoa. Okay, so from the beginning, if we, because that was a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
So if we start from relationships,
Mm-hmm.
how do you think, if you want to be specific, if you want to say, obviously, because you know your situation more than anyone. So
Mm-hmm.
if you want to say specifically your situation, how do you think that has molded how you view relationships, how you have viewed and how you view them now?
Well, first of all, going into a relationship when you're young, I think our first encounter with romance is usually young.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, typically, maybe mid to late teens. And during that time, during your teenage years, you have not developed enough or experienced enough things to generate a perception that's bigger than what's happening in front of you. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
So what was happening in front of me was a single mother working her butt off just to pay bills. And there were no luxuries in that. There were no vacations, there were
Mm.
no computers, like all of these
Wow.
toys and all of these different things that, my friends had. I never had those things. I actually lived with a family member who had those things, and that's how I really became exposed to traveling
Wow.
and doing work on a computer instead of doing handwritten reports, and also being in a family structure where there's a spouse and kids.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, it was just me. And then there was a time when it's just me and my brother. And then there was a time when it was me, my mother, and my brother, and that was chaotic. But coming from that, what happens is this is your reality. You see it, you understand it, your brain processes that as the world. This is my world. And when you get to the point of going into romantic situations and you're dating and whatnot, and for me, I couldn't see past my world. I couldn't see, like I said, as a teenager, I didn't have enough experiences to offset what I already knew.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what was normal to me and what I understood was okay, it's fine if you're in a unhealthy relationship. It's fine if you end up with a baby and you're by yourself.
Mm.
It's perfectly okay if you don't get married simply because that doesn't really happen.
Mm.
As opposed to saying I don't want to get married because of an educational choice. Like I'm making this choice based on experience and um, solid, healthy perception. You're pretty much you're pretty much accepting being single, being an unwed mother, or being a single mother simply because that's all you know, and that's all I knew. So that's what I accepted, and I was okay with being in these toxic relationships. But the
Mm.
toxic relationship aspect wasn't just because I came from a single mother household. There's a bunch of different components and elements that contributed to that. But seeing these toxic marriages, the times when I did encounter them, no offense to anybody, but I cannot at all, and I've thought of this for years, so I know what I'm talking about. I cannot tell you or mention one relationship that I've seen growing up that made me feel inspired to be married.
Mm.
Not one.
That's crazy.
Not one. And when I did There is a couple that's coming to mind that I remember seeing them, and I've just never seen a woman interact with a man like that. She was just very attentive, very soft, and always kind. I've never really seen that. Again, no offense to anybody, but this is my experience, and this
Yeah.
is how I perceived it. But watching them together, we will go to their house, and I would think, wow, this is so sweet. Look how they're all
Mm,
into each other, and they've been married forever,
yeah.
decades of marriage, and look how they're so into each other. Fast forward, they broke up because he's had a relationship on the side the whole time, or something like that.
Get out of here.
Yes. And again, here comes another moment where I'm like,
Yeah. So it just
see,
confirms everything that you've been already feeling.
yeah, marriage sucks. These relationships, they're they suck and they're toxic. And there was a time when I did not want to have kids. There was a time when I did not want to be married because I didn't know it at the time, but looking back, I can say that that was me trying to defend myself from not,
Absolutely.
yeah, ending up in any type of toxic situations. But um, your family structure, whether both parents are there or not, it has a big role in whether you are successful in school. I can say from my experience, I went through school on my own. I really did not have, I can't remember times when people were sitting there with me doing homework. I can't remember that.
Sheesh.
Yeah, I cannot remember that. I don't know if it happened. If it did happen and I'm forgetting somebody, forgive me. I don't remember it, but
Yeah.
I think just being on my own and doing certain things on my own so much,
Hmm.
it probably just overshadows any kind of help that I might have gotten academically. But then on top of it, academically I was so good
Uh,
that I guess people also felt like she got it. Like I go through that now where I'm that strong friend that nobody checks on.
mm,
But I think I've been that strong kid that people also didn't check on.
wow.
Yeah, I was. And from a very, 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 very young age, I have had to kind of my therapist calls it parentified. She said that I was parentified.
Mm,
Basically taking on the responsibilities of an adult and having to do very adult things very young.
very
Listen,
young.
I
Yeah.
was 10 years old. Let me tell you this. I was 10 years old, hopping on a train, hopping on the number 2 train from Flatbush, Brooklyn to Manhattan to transfer to the F train to the last stop, 179th Street and Hillside Avenue in Queens, to pick up my mom's paycheck
At 10
because
years old,
at 10 years old, I'm looking at my kid, he's 9. I'm looking at him now and I'm like,
he couldn't even do it, right?
I can't imagine him. But although that wasn't my responsibility, it would there was no direct deposit. My mom couldn't even leave her job to go get her own check type of
Wow.
setup. Yeah. But people might look at this and say, why would she have her kid doing that or whatever? I think both my mom and I knew that I could do that. You know what I mean?
She ain't need to check on you.
No, I was that type of kid.
Yeah.
And when I got older, it dawned on me how that type of lifestyle affected me emotionally, mentally, spiritually. But in the times when I was there, I was good.
Mm,
I was a survivor. I was a fighter. Like I was born a warrior. So I knew how to maneuver. I was slick. I As soon as I got that paycheck, um, I think someone saw me and they told my mom and they thought it was amazing and funny, but then kind of sad in a way that
Yeah.
whenever I would get the check, I would fold it up and put it in my sock. Nobody told me to do that, you
That's
know?
crazy.
No one told me to do that. I put it in my sock, take the train, and nobody saw. I don't know if people noticed me on that train, but came back to Brooklyn. And I don't know, that's probably a 4-hour trip. But
Mm,
I'm telling that story as an example of how developed and advanced I was. And then coming from Guyana too, I was pretty independent. I feel like kids in Guyana are way more independent than kids here by freaking far. And it blows my mind every time I go back and just see how these kids are self-sufficient and they're washing their own clothes and they're cooking and they're doing all these amazing things. I love it. But then when you come here, the kids are so sheltered,
mm-hmm.
and then there's way more crime here. There are kidnappings and all types of crazy
Yeah.
things here. So kids are super sheltered and guarded all the time, which I also feel kind of is a disadvantage in a way because I see,
Absolutely.
yeah, I see how that early independence helped me. But
And I was gonna go into, because it sounds like you and I have completely different stories, completely opposite.
opposite, yeah.
Yes. So I was raised in a house with both my parents. And it's so funny, like when you say the thing about 10 years old, I feel the same way. Like at 10 years old, I wasn't doing any of that stuff. I
You're
was
just
being
having
a
fun.
I was just having fun. I was being a kid.
Yeah,
But I feel like um you were that way because you really had no choice.
yeah,
Your mom's working, you got to make moves, you got to do what you got to do.
yeah,
I had always had the option and the freedom and the comfortability to just be a kid. My
yeah,
parents always took care of everything. I never really had to feel responsible to go do, adult things, or like just be that more mature child.
yeah,
So like it's so funny how um that that family structure, how it differs in that way, and it really does make all the difference. Um I do feel like, like I did, even as growing up, I guess when I got older, I started to, I guess, I think it really just depends on the timing. So how you were, doing those mature things at 10 years old, it just took me longer, or maybe I won't even say longer, it took me the appropriate time to get to do those things and to get to that point, because I was like I said, able to live out my childhood. So I just I started to do those things at a way later age, because I had that, my parents really, like I said, took care of everything. But I kind of do feel like we still, I don't know, but it did shift everything, because I was gonna say, it seems like we kind of, because me and you agree on a lot of things.
mhm,
So I was gonna say, me and you, it seems like we kind of have the same mindset now,
mhm,
but my family structure did shift. And I think that's probably why, because I feel like if my parents stayed together and I did see that loving marriage for my whole life, I might still have the mindset to be like, oh, marriage is cool.
mm.
And, these couples think, but because I saw that shift, and I'm like, all right, this thing ain't so cool no more.
So at what point did that shift happen? Like how far into your
I was
life?
older. I was definitely older. I was in my 20s.
Mhm,
But it was so drastic
mhm.
that I think it's like traumatic,
I think it
because
was drastic because it's been happening for a while and it just showed up.
yeah, but it's probably been happening for a while, but to me
Y
it just felt like it punched
Right,
me out of
exactly.
nowhere, because like I said, for my whole life I've been seeing, da da da,
Mhm,
happily married,
mhm.
and I mean, and I've been seeing like other, because I think it was, like I said, we had the complete opposites. So I don't know too many people who only have one parent. I grew up with a lot of people having both parents in their house.
And,
So,
To jump on that, when you and I initially had this conversation, you raised an excellent point. And what you said was, I grew up in Brooklyn. I spent a little bit of time in Queens, but you said, and you mostly was Long Island, right?
Yeah, I was born. Usually say born and raised in Queens, so I was in Queens from birth till 12, and then I moved to Long Island for the rest of my
Right.
life.
So, and then in Queens, did you guys live in an apartment or did you own a home?
No, we lived in a house.
Okay. So see,
Yeah.
that's another thing, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, the point that you raised earlier is that when you live in certain areas, you need two incomes to survive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think coming from an impoverished place,
Mm-hmm.
and hence why my mom had to work the way she did,
Yeah.
pulling in the income that could afford us to just get food and
Yeah,
pay
just get
bills.
by. Yeah.
Right. So we probably wouldn't have survived on Long Island unless we were in the hood, Long Island,
Mm-hmm.
which is not even a whole lot. There aren't that many
Yeah.
hoods on Long Island. For the most part, you seem to need multiple incomes to survive,
Sure.
and that's probably another reason why people stick it out.
Yes. I think that was a big part of it. Because like I said, that's all I knew. All I knew was having two parents. All I knew was living in houses. Well, I only lived in two houses, but all knew was living in a house. And we only knew the comfortability. And I think my parents, uh, that was their motivation, to keep us comfortable, to make sure that we had the best, not the best things, because I didn't go to the best schools and all of that, but make sure that we were comfortable.
Right.
And uh dang, what was I gonna say? Oh,
Did you,
even us moving, even us moving from Queens was because of that reason. Because Queens started to get to a place where it was starting to become uncomfortable. It was
mm,
we were growing, and it was becoming a little too hood,
wild?
a little too crazy.
Yeah.
We ended up getting our house completely robbed, empty,
What part of
and
Queens is that? Jamaica?
Jamaica.
Mm.
Yeah. So then they were like, okay, yeah, it's time to go. It's time to go. We got to keep them comfortable.
So what about school? Like, how can I can tell you how my family structure affected me in school. Um, I was always a straight A student. Coming from
Mm-hmm.
Guyana, I was always at the top of my class, always. Then coming to New York, um, it was still all good. Like I had so many encounters with people on in on the outside, like in school. And one of the biggest fights that I ever had in school was a dude who was well known around to be some kid criminal. You know what I mean? Like when
Mm-hmm.
people heard that I had a fight with this guy, they were like, "You had a fight with him
Wow.
and you beat him?"
And you beat him? Oh, snap.
Yeah, because I pulled some tricks to get that done. But this dude kicked me in my back. First of all, he called me a
Ooh.
bitch, which I don't condone. Um, and even to this day, I don't condone calling women bitches. But you'll see that it started from when I was a kid. I was 10 years old, and this dude called me a bitch, and it was fire, like all hail fire on his ass. But I'm bringing that up because there was no protection for me. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? I
Yeah.
was out there doing what I had to do in the world. And did my mom can't tell you how many fights I had and what type of trouble I got into, because I was already mature and independent enough to figure out how to get out of everything, and I did, without it having to get to her. And I also looked at it like my mom is doing a lot for us. There's no reason why she should be coming to schools about this type of
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
and
yeah.
whatnot.
Yeah.
And I was also even thinking on that level. But school was okay in terms of academics and my grades, but the moment I got to high school, that's when things started to get crazy. Like, I think the emotional stuff, that's when I started
Mm-hmm.
going through depression. That's when I started like doing things that were super destructive. I think high school had to have been maybe the hardest chapter in my life, because as a teenager, you need guidance. You're confused. This is
Sure.
when you're gathering information and really trying to figure things out. Um, but for me, it was, I have to figure this shit out on my own and go to school. And the culture that I come from, people say, you're young, you don't have any problems. What's your problem?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just walking around depressed all the time. I think the whole 4 years I've just been going through a depression, and then ultimately at 17 I dropped out.
Oh
um
wow.
yeah, I just stopped going. And I don't even think my mom knew when I stopped going to school.
And you were the oldest, right?
Hmm. I have a younger brother, and for the most part, um I kind of became a mom to him, just taking
Wow.
care of him, and being super protective of him, and just always being the mom sister. But yeah, I dropped out of high school, and I ended up um, getting a GED. And it's so crazy that when I went to Kingsborough Community College to get my GED, and I was going through the classes, I had an instructor who I guess is just not conscious enough to understand like shit happens in life, but she was like, "You do so well. Why did you drop out?"
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I don't think I had the words, but though I did find the words, and it's really that, being smart and being great academically is not enough to survive school. You need support, you need guidance, you need people behind you, even if it's not your parents. And I
Yeah.
didn't have it.
Yeah.
I didn't even have the people on the outside. I had family members who supported me. My aunt especially has always been 100% there for me, but sometimes you need support in certain ways that nobody can give you but your parents,
Yeah.
and I just simply didn't have it, and went through that depression, and um, didn't know I was depressed at the time, but I just knew that I just wasn't okay.
You ever seen that movie Dangerous Minds?
Yes, but I think I saw it too long ago to remember.
Yeah, it was like that same thing. The girl was, I think there was one girl, she was so smart, but she had a single mom. She was being raised by a single mom and all of this, and she had to leave school, and the teacher went to her house. It's like, this girl's so smart. Why does you have to keep her in school? She don't need no school. She need to be.
I remember
I'm
that.
sorry to bring that up, but that
No,
just
no,
reminded
no,
me
no.
of that. I'm like, oh, you
You
the
know what? I
girl
have
from
to watch
Dangerous
that.
Minds
Now I have to watch that
with
movie,
Michelle
because
Pfeiffer.
yes,
Yeah,
it was Michelle Pfeiffer. I do remember that now. I do remember that. And yes, it does resonate, because we've had those little moments where teachers are like, "What's happening? What's going on
yeah.
with you?" I'm 16 years old. No, no, I'm 17 years old. 16, yeah, 16, 17 years old, smoking weed before I go to school.
Oh, sheesh.
Yeah, wake up in the morning, roll up, smoke. Um, and I just needed that to get through the day, because not
Mhm.
only did I have this void when it came to family, and not only was I going through everything I was going through emotionally, but then once I got inside the school, that was a whole other can of
Yeah,
worms that
yeah.
opened up every morning. It
Because if
was
you think you had trouble with your feeling connected with your parents, kids don't give a fuck.
No, they don't.
They
And
don't give a fuck.
yeah, growing up in the 90s, meaning the 90s Brooklyn, East 96, East 95th, those places, not 1990s, but
Oh,
and that too.
yeah, yeah,
But growing up in that part of Brooklyn, and then going to Wingate High School. Granted, I didn't go to Wingate too long, because I came from Far Rockaway High School. and went to Wingate for a little while. There was so much crime. There was, you don't know what's going to happen in the school. People were getting hurt. There was like,
Crazy.
it was a lot to deal with. So then once I got there, I was like, yo, I don't want to be here. The teachers are no good. That school doesn't even exist anymore, by the way. They broke it up, and I
Oh,
guess
it's
it's
too crazy.
privately owned now. You know how New York went through this whole charter. New York City
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
went through the whole charter school transition thing. But yeah, that was my experience. And I know for sure that your family structure affects your grades. Your family structure affects whether or not you go to college. I read the
Sure.
data. It's a fact. And I lived it. So I know it's true.
So you didn't go to college?
No, I attempted to. Um, I registered. Uh, I registered. I can't even remember what age that was, but I started going to Long Island University. I got accepted to that Brooklyn campus. And I was doing excellent, right? It was excellent. It was an excellent experience because I actually love school.
Mm,
I actually like school. I actually love learning. I love, and I think I also had this ego thing with self esteem. And because school was the place where I excelled the best, that was
mm,
probably why.
yeah.
But yeah, I ended up dropping out because it was just too much. It was just too much going on. And, on those days when you wake up and you're having certain family pressures or certain family drama or certain
Yeah.
family issues, it's like, fuck it, I don't want to go. And I don't have to go because nobody's pushing me and nobody's holding me accountable and
Mm,
nobody's supporting me. So fuck it. And I
wow.
think I did that so many times that I ended up just not going back at all.
Yeah.
um, but over the years, I ended up, figuring out, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur. I never wanted to work for anybody anyway. Even as a kid, I knew I wasn't going to work for anybody. I don't think there was ever a time when I aspired to have a job. But anyway, over the years, I figured out, okay, I'm going to do this type of business. This is what I need to learn. And I took courses. I went to little schools here and there that I could get certificates or diplomas and stuff like that. But for the most part, nope, I did not graduate college, did not graduate high school, did not graduate college.
That is
Uh,
crazy.
and people
That
wouldn't think that. People would never.
no, because
Mm-mm.
I didn't know that, and I would not think that because the way that you carry yourself. I mean, not to say you're not educated, but
Yeah.
you seem like you
Yeah.
finished high school, you got your bachelor's and your
Yeah.
doctorate. Like you walk like you have a doctorate.
Yeah,
I
people
mean,
people say that all the time. I even one night I was working at my mom's bar, and this guy said to me, "What college did you go to?" Because I was studying actually. I was in the back of the bar, in a corner studying. I don't remember
wow.
what I was studying, but I
Why were
was
you in a bar studying?
because I was managing. So
Oh,
I
okay.
wasn't actually working. I was a manager at a bar, when my mom owned a bar that's no longer existing. But I was managing it, and I was in the back studying. And he's like, what college did you go to? And yeah, I could tell that you probably have a master's and whatever. And I'm like, based on what? Everything that you're seeing here is mostly self-made. Everything that you are
Wow.
experiencing is mostly self-made. And it really came from always having a love of learning, period.
Yeah.
you know but
Mhm.
don't get me wrong, emotionally, mentally, I'm bruised up, I'm banged up. And that's why I make sure that I in 2019 I started seeing a therapist. I started because it's like I can do all of these things. I'm super talented. I'm super creative. I can do things that touch people and create greatness and whatnot. But then on the inside, there always comes a time when I have to go through this really dark period and then just
Mm.
wait it out and then get back to the light. And I was just tired of going through that roller coaster. And I know it's because of old, unresolved things that I just cannot figure out how to resolve because they happened when I was a child.
Yeah, they're
And
like
things that you pick,
imprinted
yeah,
in you.
imprinted. Exactly.
Mhm.
So here we are today. I do go through my roller coaster stuff where I'm on this high, everything is great, I'm happy, jumping around, making things happen. And then there comes a time, whether it's triggered by events or I don't know what triggered, I'll just go down and have
Yeah,
that moment. And don't get me wrong, I function, like I will move around and do what I have to do, and you have no idea that I'm depressed. You know what I
yeah.
mean? But
Well, I
I do
always say it's never about going through those things, and even to getting your therapy and healing. It's not about completely being 100%. It's not about getting rid of these things that have happened in your traumas. It's about dealing with them and managing and making sure that you're still able to, like you said, move and do the things that you do, because
function.
you can't change what has happened to you. You can't, you can't erase your history. So those things are always going to be with you. They're always going to be your thoughts and your experiences, and you got to figure out, all right, how do I manage them? How do I wake up every morning and say, okay, that happened. It is what it is. How am I going to move forward in today to make sure that I progress?
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what it is. Going to therapy really offered me tools
Mm-hmm.
to get through everything because like you said, those things don't go away, they stay with you. You just have to learn how to cope and learn how to get by every day. But the data, the numbers are out there, and the studies show that kids who are raised by single parents don't do as well as kids who are raised um,
Uh-huh.
in a household where both biological parents are there. Even kids with a step parent don't do as well. They do better than kids who are raised by by single parents, but they don't
Mm-hmm.
do as well as kids whose parents are married. If you grow up in a household where both of your parents were there and they were married, you're highly likely to get married as well. And if you grow up in a household with a single mother, you have a higher chance of being a single mother. I'm a single mother.
Sheesh.
I'm a single mother, but I think going back to how this conversation started, all of the things that I've done for my son and making sure that, he has all of these opportunities and he can realize his dreams and really jump into his potential, whatever that is. It's really because of my experiences, and I am conscious of how it's affected me, and I just want to make sure that I am offsetting something. I know for sure that, the fact that my son's dad and I are not together and, we don't live together and stuff like that, we barely get along.
Uh-huh.
I know that that's going to be a challenge for my
Yeah,
son.
sure.
I know that. But what I try my best to do is make sure that when he's in my realm, when he's with me, he's good. So when that challenge does show up for him, at least he has tools that his mom offered him
Yeah.
to process that stuff in a healthy way and really get to the other side of it.
What would you because and kind of to I feel like the way that you are today has obviously is all because of all those things that you went through. And I feel like subconsciously, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like subconsciously your mom has transferred that to you because you had to grow up seeing her just going to get it. I mean, like, so I feel like that has transferred into you when you just like, all right, no, I got to make things happen. I got to go and get it. I mean, like, no matter what the case is.
That's
But
exactly what it was.
would you have preferred, would you like, if you could change things, would you have preferred to have that, both parents, white picket fence, or do
No.
you like having to go through the mud?
Um, I don't want this to be misconstrued. I don't want this to be taken the wrong way. But I have to be blunt about it. That would not have worked with the parents that I have. Um, my father wasn't there for a lot of reasons that we figured out. But you know, based on how he operates and how he goes about doing things, I can see why the universe felt that it was beneficial for me to not have him there during those years.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to not have that type of father experience to become this person that I am today. And there were a lot of times when I wasn't protected. There were a lot of battles that I had to fight on my own, a lot of pain, abuse, different things that I've had to do to survive. And during those times, I felt alone, like, damn, where are my people? But then today, when things pop up, I know how to knock things down and keep it pushing,
Uh-huh.
and survive. But maybe I would have been in a different space had both of my parents been there. But um, based on the people that brought me here, first of all, my mom and dad are so different. They would not get along at
Mm-hmm.
all. Like, I don't even no. I don't even see them having breakfast together.
Wow.
My mom and dad are so different. There's no way that they would get along. So that would have probably been a thing. You know what I mean? But you know what? I am so blessed and I am so grateful for my experiences, because now we have the Nola Row Experience podcast. Not saying that the podcast is the
Facts.
cherry on top of everything, but I feel grateful that I have a story or stories and experiences that
Yes.
I can speak on that touch other people. And
Uh-huh.
that's what's been happening.
I personally love, like, I have a little bit of like of an obsession with like those type of stories. Like even listening to your story now, I'm just like, give me more.
Because you like
Because
juice.
I like juice, and I like to hear like the struggle and like people went
Yeah.
through things,
Yeah.
and it motivates me, and it inspires me, and it's almost like, it's almost like, I don't know, yeah, it's like looking at anyone. It's like looking at a celebrity and be like, oh, Michael Jordan, he had to do all of this stuff to get where he is.
Yeah.
I mean, and you using that to propel you to where you need to be.
Yeah.
So I mean, I do have my stories, but I love, so part of me feels like, damn, I wish it was a little harder. I wish I
Mhm.
had a little bit of a more of a struggle,
Yeah.
because I feel like that would have made me more of a like a motivated go-getter type of person.
Yeah.
Even though obviously I've done my thing, and I've gone many places and done many things, but
Yeah.
I feel like, um a lot of times I have, because I'm used to the comfortability, a lot of times I can get settled in that
Right.
comfortability.
Comfort zone, yeah.
Yeah, I can get, quickly, easily slip into that
Fall
comfort
back
zone.
into it because you're
Yes.
familiar with it, but don't get it twisted, mail it. Listen to
Uh-huh.
this. Yes, it does take a lot to get there, but look at how many celebrities and how many, and I'm just mentioning celebrities because these are the people that we usually all know of, right?
Yeah.
Because it
Uh-huh.
happens to everyday people all the time. But the suicides and the depression and the anxiety and not being able to live up to those pressures, a lot of times that's because your life has been so draining
Oh my goodness.
that you get to a point where you're like, you know what, fuck it. I've been going through too much. I can't do it anymore. And I just work hard to make sure that I am never in that mind space, because based on everything that I've gone through, I know for sure that if I don't take care of myself, if I don't heal, that would be me. I know it.
That's so crazy. This whole week, I've been listening to this song by CeeLo called
Mm,
Robin Williams. If
really?
you've never
No.
heard this song, go
No.
check it out. Yo,
Wow.
this song is so crazy. It's like, I don't know if the song is really good, and obviously CeeLo is awesome,
Hmm.
but just when I was listening to the song and I'm thinking about Robin Williams, I'm just like, it blows my mind,
How much
because I'm like,
laughter he's brought everybody.
how amazing does this man seem? from the outside?
Yeah.
How happy does he seem? He seems like he is like the always in the most the best mood. He loves to make people laugh. He seems like he laughs a lot. And to know that this man was struggling to the point where he said he doesn't want to live anymore.
Yeah,
That
because
blows my mind.
it's also exhausting having to exude that energy
Yeah.
to offer that to other people. That's
And
also
I'm pretty sure
something.
all the time he's like, just like, he
Yes,
always
it's
has to be
exhausting. It's
doing that.
exhausting. And then when you become a celebrity or a person in the public eye, a public figure, it's also exhausting because you constantly have to live up to something. You constantly,
Yeah.
especially if you're an entertainer and you're expected to bring people joy or laughter.
Mm-hmm.
When do you get a chance to say, yo, I'm sad?
Yeah.
I'm not happy.
You've
I have a
never
lot
seen
of,
him say that. Never seen an
yo,
interview of him saying, "Yeah, I don't feel good today" or nothing. He's just always
yeah.
making jokes, always doing impressions, and oh man,
So this whole conversation is about, family structure and how it affects you
yeah,
as an adult, because how you grow up as a child, if you did not get the memo by now, it will show up as an adult. And
mm-hmm.
if you're a person interested in healing yourself, if you're a person who's persistent on making sure that you resolve old conflicts or issues, old trauma, old pain, you will know that that's a lifelong process. So everything that you've gone through as a kid, as a teenager, sometimes it takes you the rest of your life to resolve
Yeah,
it, but it's so worth it, because the alternative is sitting in it and just continuously sinking into some unknown abyss of
yeah,
pain. you know um so what I also want to do is encourage people who don't really value or don't really understand the enormity of conceiving a child and bringing whole entire humans into this world, not understanding who you are, where you are, and what you're going to do.
mm-hmm.
You unintentionally set these people on these paths where they have
Mm-hmm.
to struggle.
Yes,
Now, granted, life is not all about skipping through a field of flowers and whistling. That's not what
mm-hmm.
life is all about. And we do learn and we do become strong from adversities. But if you can decrease or alleviate some of that for your kid
Yes,
so that they have a better chance of becoming successful, do
uh-huh.
that. And if
Yeah,
that shit means holding out on having a baby, if that shit means
mm-hmm.
wearing a condom,
If
uh,
that should mean staying in a marriage.
nah.
I only say that because I
This
believe
is
that
where the
that's
car crashes.
I only say that because I believe that that's what my parents did.
Yeah, I don't think you should ever stay in an unhappy situation for your
I
kids.
don't know if it was that's the thing. I don't know if it was an unhappy situation.
I think
But
it
I
was
think it
unhappy if they split.
no,
Somebody wasn't happy.
I think it was like, all right. I don't think it was like unhappy, but it was like, all right, we're here because there was love in the beginning. I feel like at some point it went off, and it was like I think they were saying like, all right, we're here. We built this thing. We have to see it through. Now, I mean, it was
Mm,
like, let's do what we have to do because it could have been,
mm,
I could have been 12 or 10 or 11. I mean, or 5 when they just were like, all right, it's not working. We out.
yeah.
But I
But you
think the
can do that.
extra,
You can do that and not stay in the relationship. I think it's way healthier to show your kids that their mental health and their happiness comes first,
uh-huh.
because so many people stick it out in marriages, but then the kids still end up a little screwy dooey because now you're seeing people who, not saying this was the case with your parents at
Yeah.
all, but in general, watching, let's say a girl, I'm speaking from my perspective because I'm a girl, but let's just say a girl looking at her mother put up with a father who doesn't treat her well,
Yeah,
or he doesn't do right by her in whatever way. You're learning, this is
absolutely.
how you're learning how to interact in relationships and be with a man.
Yeah,
But then to see your mother say, you know what, this is not healthy for me. I don't want
uh-huh.
to be here. I am leaving. But then still have those parents collaborate in a healthy way to keep raising those kids. I
Absolutely.
agree with that way more than, being in a marriage where we're both miserable, probably have a side piece or three.
Yeah, that's a different story.
Yeah.
That's
And
a
and
yeah, like you said, it just it depends on, your what type of energy you're giving off to your children and to
absolutely.
yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if you like you're in, because I've been in relationships and in situations where I'm like, all right, we're here. I want to exhaust our options. I mean, no, I don't want to be like I'm out at the first sight of blood. I want to exhaust the options to see if we can see this through and make it work.
Same.
And if we can, let's do it. If we can't, then let's do that too.
Yeah.
I
Same.
mean, but if you're in the situation, by any means, like if you're in that situation where you're unhappy, you're fighting, you're, doing this stuff in front of your kids, you're just really making everything worse for everybody, yourself, your
Absolutely.
children, the lineage, all of that.
I agree. And I like that you said lineage,
Hmm.
because we pass these things down forever, right? Like whatever it is that I'm going through now has absolutely been in my family way before my mother was born.
Sure. Hmm.
And even I said it in the launch, during the launch event, I spoke with a psychic. She was telling me about things that were happening in my family way before I was born.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was like, how you
Where you said the psychic was?
LA.
Ooh.
LA. She was near Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. That's a restaurant that my bestie at the time thought, you have to go to Roscoe's and have it. But that's when I ate meat. So I had the waffles and the chicken. So good. But
Yeah,
we's
Roscoe's is
vegans
cool.
now. You heard?
Vegan, yeah.
But yeah, man. Not everybody is meant to be a parent. Not everybody should. I don't think everybody should have kids, man. People keep
Hmm.
pushing that on each other. When you gonna have kids? When you gonna give your son a sister?
Yeah, yeah.
You don't know what type of mental stuff I'm going through to even make it through this day. You want me to put
Yeah,
another person into it? Like, chill.
yeah, yeah. Family structure is important. I think we all need to be super conscious about that. I think like that was your point about, having babies and stuff. We need to be super conscious about before we bring them here, before we create new families, and when we do create new families, how we're going about that, how we're planting the seeds, and how we're tending to those seeds as they grow. Because, like you said in the very beginning, um, we're creating thousands and thousands of human beings. So from one seed, from one birth, there will be thousands after that.
Yeah, that
And
one
you just
night
got
of
to think,
Humpty Dumpty.
I know, right? Yeah, you got to be super conscious about that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, this is a deeply spiritual thing as well. We really take it for granted, man. I don't think we think deeply enough about what creating another human really is.
No.
You're literally just having sex one moment, and
Hmm.
then somewhere down the road, a person is created. That's
Hmm.
incredible. You're doing like the highest level of work
Yeah.
in this world by creating another person. And I think we just run around and treat it like it's nothing,
Yeah.
and then in turn create like a line of pain, generations and generations of struggling and pain.
Hmm. Need to
But
end that cycle. I think that
yeah,
it's all of our duties, and I believe that is super possible because if there has been a line of pain and torment and trauma that has been passed down and passed down, somebody has to make the decision and be like, it stops here.
yeah, and that somebody has definitely been me.
Lit.
And
Lit,
when
lit.
you yeah, when you take on that job, be prepared. You're gonna go through some shit. You're gonna have
Yeah,
to go back, resolve
that's
things that they
very
have.
hard.
Yeah, trust me, it's a lot. But it's kind of like Martin Luther King Jr., who did all types of work for us. He knew that what he was doing wasn't for him. He knew that that would
Mm-hmm.
be for us. So there are so many things that I do to heal myself because my grandmother's DNA is still in me, and I feel like if I heal my DNA, I'm healing her.
Mm.
And my my grandkids and my great great grandkids and my great 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 great, I want my great 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 grandkids to say, "Yo, you know who I'm related to?
Yeah.
Nola Rowe." And people are gonna be like, "What? That was your great 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 grandmother?" Like, she's not even your grandmother anymore. You're not even related to her. It's too many greats. But
uh,
that's what I aspire to do, to make sure that whatever I create is intentional. And if
mm,
I do um, uh, create a family structure, which I still have not done, once it's done, it's intentional, and it's not just because I have a void. It's not just because it was missing and I really want to have it. It's going to be intentional, and it's going to absolutely make sense. And I think I have the guy for that.
oh.
You're so annoying. You're so the fuck was that?
Oh, that was beautiful. Wonderful
Yeah.
conversation. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing. You shared a lot today that I did not
Yeah.
know about you,
Yeah.
and it is very telling and super inspirational, like I mentioned before. So I
Thank you.
appreciate
Thank you.
you.
Um that's my experience. This is the Nola Rowe Experience podcast. You are my experience, and I'm super excited to be yours. Please come back. Y'all come back, all right? Come back. Don't
Come
leave us
back,
out here. Listen,
please.
my son looked at my YouTube channel because I was on the laptop just looking at the YouTube, and he walked in. He's like, "Mom, you're a YouTuber."
That's crazy.
And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, "I'm not a YouTuber. Like, I just started this page 2 weeks ago."
I'm not
So
a
he's like,
YouTuber.
this is him. "How many subscribers do you have?" "Only 23." Oh, he was so disappointed. Like,
We just started, bro. Give me a chance.
I'm a bum. So y'all, please come out here. Y'all disappointed my son, man.
Word.
Subscribe to the
Subscribe
YouTube.
to the channel.
We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. I usually forget to mention Twitter because I'm just not a tweeter.
Me
But
neither. I got to get back into
yeah,
it though.
pull up on Twitter as well. All social networks, all social platforms. Thank you for listening. We love you.
Much love. Peace.
Come back.